This is the Rising Goddess Podcast, and I'm your host, Michelle Torrance. This is a space where when we start diving deep, we're talking spiritual, mental, and physical. We're getting real and connecting with ourselves and others in the most intimate ways. We'll be talking all things sacred sexual, relationship building, womb healing, connection, and connecting with and through our bodies, how to use our sexual and sensual energies to create, manifest, and heal our lives in our individual and collective ancient feminine lines, while intertwining our healing and connection with the divine masculine. We'll learn from amazing humans who take time and share their wisdom and sacred healing magic. Rising humans who are here in this world to be healers, teachers, guides, priestesses, warriors, shamans, and all divine sisters and brothers in rising. We'll get witchy, sassy, sexy, and saucy, talking all things that align us with our true nature and authentic selves, creating a community of divine feminine and masculine rising to be a massive part in this shift of world healing. So grab some green juice, light some cannabis, get your blankets, or sit by the fire. Let's rise up together. Catch you on the inside, dolls. Hello, my beautiful rising humans, and welcome to this next episode of Rising Goddess Radio, another solo cast coming at you today. And today we are talking Mercury Retrograde. Why specifically Mercury? Because Mercury Retrograde is the one that everybody usually has all their arms up in the air with, and it affects the communication. And that is what we all do. We all communicate. Whether we're good at it or not is another story, but we all communicate. So first of all, if you're not familiar with what retrograde is or Mercury retrograde is, basically this is what's happening. Planets move around the sun from east to west. So what happens is, as we are moving 3 times a year, Mercury appears to be moving west to east. And that is because as Earth, we are passing it. So it appears to be moving in the opposite direction, but we are literally passing Mercury. So it appears to be moving retrograde, right? So, but during this time, there is some energy and frequency vibrations that are coming through and that are affecting communication. And we tend to notice this whether it's communication or electronic devices, right? I'm not sure really cosmically fully everything that goes on with that, but what I do know is that it affects, and I'm still learning about it. So if you know more about this, and I'm looking to speak with some wonderful people on the podcast as well. But if you are familiar with this, then definitely let's continue this conversation. But illusion or not, the illusion or the appearance that Mercury is moving the opposite direction, going retrograde, the energy and the vibrations shift. And so during this time, it really affects our communication. And so when it comes up, people are like, okay, great, things are just going to, everything is just going to get all screwed up. Things are going to happen. Not necessarily. Retrograde is really a time for renewing, reviewing, reevaluating, anything with a re in it. This is the opportunity for you to turn about face what it is, the things that you may not have allowed yourself to face, or maybe you weren't ready yet, you weren't aware of it, because once we become aware of it, then we're ready. And then if we don't do it, then we're just choosing to not do it. And that's the choice, the free will that we get. Because once we become aware, then we can go ahead and take the action step. It's just whether or not we take that action step, right? So retrograde is a time for us to turn around and face what it is that we haven't. And this happens a few times a year. And it seems like it's happening constantly all the time, is because there's pre-shadow and post-shadow of retrograde. So there's still lingering energy there. There's building energy, building it up, moving into it. Then we hit full retrograde. And then there's the week or two afterwards, about 2 weeks afterwards, where we are in post-shadow. And so we're winding down from that energy. And then we're learning how to and implement what it is that we've been made aware of, shifted, grown from, hopefully, during that retrograde time. Now, each time that we have a retrograde, it happens, it's differently for your zodiac sign too. I mean, whatever sun sign you are, you're going to be affected differently by it because it is the communication one, and our sun sign does affect our communication, our outward appearance. Our moon sign is what is our emotional part, right? That is more of our feminine, our dark side. So retrograde is really a time of expansion. It's really a time of renewal. It's really a time of reviewing and reevaluating and seeing, where are you? Where do you want to go? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who are you now? Do you want to be this person, this human? Do you want to experience this life that you're experiencing now? Are you ready to change it? What can you do? How can you change it? Where do you need to work on and look on within yourself to really start to make those changes, to really shift your life and then start to implement that? So communication is big with us as humans. That's really how we do everything, right? We're talking, whether it's written communication or talking communication or singing or dancing or sign languaging or whatever it is. We are communicating within ourselves, with our relationships, with our creators, with other humans, with everything. We are communicating. Communication is the key for us to have a civilization and really build relationships and everything. I mean, our civilization is relationships. So when Mercury goes retrograde and our communication is messed up, this is what's going on. We are feeling these emotions. And when we are feeling emotions, right, when we're quote unquote triggered, then it activates an emotion, right? And those emotions is usually what we have in the past or during direct, we won't really check into or review or be aware of. But because Mercury is in retrograde, right, we are not direct, we are returning around, reviewing and looking at ourselves, we are aware of that emotion, and that emotion is triggering a thought and something for us to become aware of and to start and to be able to shift and change. And we're more aware of it during retrograde, we're heightened of it. And so because a lot of us, when we get emotional or we start to feel that trigger, we don't want to face it, so we will act out or react to something because we just don't want to deal with it, or we're trying to run from it or trying to hide from it in whatever direction, right? Sometimes during retrograde, people will go into eating binges, food binges, and they will binge out because they're being forced to revert themselves backwards, look at themselves in the mirror, and they're facing something and forced to reevaluate and review it, and they don't want to. So they'll go on a food binge, or sometimes they'll go on a drug binge, or sometimes, as people will go on whatever binge it is to hide whatever their addictive modality, whatever their vice is, right? And so that is why then communication is all fucked up, because people don't know how to talk, people don't know how to communicate, because they're not allowing themselves to actually look at what it is that is trying to come up for them to actually review and look at, so that way they can release it and then renew, right? Recharge, reconstruct. Right? This is our opportunities. Just like with women with our cycles, every single month we die, we go through a death and then a rebirthing, we go through a deconstruction and then a reconstruction, right? Retrograde is our opportunity to really look at, to reevaluate, review, and then renew, release and renew. And people don't understand how to communicate during that time, or sometimes because like I said before, they're like running from it, they act out or they react to something, and then they say something that they don't mean, and they're like, oh, it's retrograde, I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said during retrograde. That's definitely a meme, and that's just a cop-out. That's just an excuse. That's just you giving yourself an opportunity to not look at the truth of what's really going on, and where you can actually start to make some shifts in your life to become and rise up into the human that you have been meant to be in this existence. So, when I see people shouting off excuses or being like, retrograde made me do it, or, oh great, here we go, another retrograde, shit's gonna fuck up now, don't do anything, everybody hide. No, that's you setting yourself up to just giving yourself an excuse to not fucking look at it. And I say this, that's what I used to do for myself. I used to tell myself that too. Oh, it's just retrograde, that's just it, I'm just, it's just fucked up because of retrograde. And yeah, there are some things electronically, you'll find your electronics tend to kind of mess up, or maybe like a mishap on a phone conversation, or a scheduling mishap or something like that. But that can happen without retrograde. But utilizing this time to really use it as a tool to connect with yourself, to tap into what has been holding you back. What have you allowed to stay within the shadows? What have you allowed to stay within the certain parts of you that keep you down, that keep you hidden, that keep you low, that keep you in a state of quote unquote safety, right? For not shining, not going out. What is it that you can utilize this energy for to really release and get out of your system because it no longer serves you? And how can you utilize this and help someone else connect and tie into that instead of utilizing it as an excuse? How can you what if you have like a conversation with somebody, with a spouse or something, and like, you react a certain way, and some sort of shift happens in the energy, right, between you and your partner, right? And you don't feel good. You've got this gut feeling something's going on, right? And instead of you just playing it off as, oh, it's just retrograde, what if you actually got curious? And what if you utilized this energy, this lack of communication that happened, to actually be a tool and a guide to lead to something that you can actually release and let go of that no longer serves you? What if you can utilize this energy to actually rise up into the being that you're meant to be, instead of just using it as an excuse to just keep fucking around and just saying, oh, this mess up, or whatever. And I get it. Utilize the energy. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're working through launches, or you're planning trips, or you're planning certain things, or like webinars or whatever, yeah, you want to take into consideration the energy that is happening during that time, the cosmic energy that comes into this earth, and the cosmic energy that either supports or tends to hinder or tends to alter certain things. And this is real. It is a real energy. It is a real vibration. It is a real frequency that can happen. So being aware of it is important, but don't use it as an excuse, and if something were to happen, this also gives you an opportunity, at least for myself. And when I say you, sometimes, most of the time when I say you, of course, I'm including myself in this, because as the collective, we are the you, the I collective. But, I feel like I totally lost my train of thought now. Oh, but like, this could be an opportunity for grace, to learn grace for yourself, right? This could be an opportunity for you to not be so serious about certain things, to not take some things so seriously. This could be an opportunity for you to find the fun in something. This could be an opportunity to take the off-beaten path and actually shift into something that you would have never even thought to, because you've been so direct in one certain path, or you've been, so whatever. There's so many different ways to utilize retrograde that can support your expansion, that can support your growth, that could support the growth and expansion of the collective, and that can help your relationships, not only with yourself, but with your spouse, your partner, your children, your friends, your business partners, whomever. So learn about it. Get curious about it. It's different in every sign. It's different, in this retrograde, we're moving into Leo right before, right? So this retrograde will be in the energy of Leo. And so, yes, I'm a Scorpio, but this retrograde energy is going to be magnified with the Leo energy, right? So the tendencies and the characteristics of Leo will be present within the outward experience, but then my Scorpio-ness is going to be what how I express that Leo energy through my Scorpio-ness. Does that make sense? How I express that Leo energy through my personal sun sign energy, right? And, and so learning what the energies and what the characteristics are, if you're not familiar with it, and instead of just writing it off, oh, that's bullshit, get curious about it. How do you know it's bullshit? And if you're listening to this podcast, most likely you're not thinking that. But if you happen to stumble across this and you are, then I challenge you to get curious. So this episode's a little bit shorter. It's a beautiful summer day. It's the energy is uplifting. The energy is exciting. The energy is bright. The energy is warm. People are already out mowing their lawns. I'm sure you can probably hear that. And I'm really excited for retrograde to come, and I'm excited for your input. I'm excited for your conversation. So let's practice communication with this retrograde, right? And let's have this conversation carry over onto my Facebook page. How do you view retrograde? How have you viewed it? And after listening to this episode, is there any shift in your viewing? Do you view it differently? Do you have a different connection or an understanding or a possibility or a different curiosity about it? Let's continue it over on the Facebook page. Let's keep utilizing the tools that we've been given as humans, the cosmic tools, the spiritual tools, the physical tools. Every single thing that we've been given is a miraculous, magical experience. And there are signs everywhere. There are tools everywhere. There are resources everywhere. You are fully supported. You are fully loved. Everything is happening on your behalf. And everything is always working out. So now that we know that, then let's get curious. And let's learn communication. Let's get better at communicating. Let's practice it together. And that way we can practice together, and we can show our children, we can show others how we can utilize the tools, the cosmic tools, spiritual tools, physical tools, earthly bound tools, to really align and connect and get to know ourselves more and others more and communicate better. And when we can communicate better, we can start to shift the vibration and the energy of the world. And that's how we really start to birth a new world of unconditional love and open communication and support and understanding and intuitive, creative, magical hustle and flow. So, all right. This is fun. Let's continue the conversation over on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Rising Goddess Facebook page. Let's continue this. Let's practice the communication, and I will catch you on the next one. Later.